Today is Wednesday, May 13th. Welcome to our CNAB general meeting. First, I wanted to see if we had anyone new or maybe hasn't been here for a while and want to introduce themselves, perhaps.
Aditya, would you like to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure, I think I did it last time though. But here goes. I'm Aditya, I'm a PhD student, soon to be PhD student at NYU Secure Systems Lab. I primarily work on in-toto, and I've been exploring using in-toto for the minimal supply chain to validate CNAB bundles.
Cool. I love having more people on security. We need more people on that, mostly because I'm terrible at it. All right, so next up on our agenda, wow, we have a whole bunch of things that need review. So first up, I'm just gonna start copying these into chat. Let's take a look at these as we go. On the CNAB-spec, known implementations for the security spec 288. Let me share my screen, sorry about that. Take a look at this. Whose PR is this? Radu. I can't put Radu on the hot seat. Looks like Sylvan's already looked at that. And Trishank, you have been reviewing it as well. If anyone else is interested, maybe a detail you're interested in taking a look at this too. Looks like we need one more to get this past the goalpost. I have no idea what we're hung up on though. So looks like it's been a while.
I can approve, but unfortunately I don't have the approval bit, I think, so.
Oh, you don't?
Not yet.
Not yet. Da, da, da. Okay, I'll take a look at it and see what I can do to rustle up more people who know enough about it to get it approved then.
Thank you.
Okay, you're right. Sorry, my brain is a sieve, so everything's gotta get written down. 1 second. All right, thanks. Now we've got 362. Looks like same thing. We have an initial draft for the registry specification from Radu. And Trishank, how's this looking? Have you finished reviewing it yet?
I had some questions which I wanted to discuss with Chris last week, but we postponed the meeting last week and he's not here right now. So I think as a draft, it's great. It just needs a lot more fleshing out, obviously. But other than that, as a draft, yeah, it's a good start.
So maybe next week we'll get more eyes on it. Let's make sure that that's on next week's agenda then. Wow, we're on a security roll here. Okay, clarify how to verify and inspect in-toto metadata. You want to chat about this one a little bit?
Yeah, sure. There was a question about where this is done. It wasn't clear before, and now it's just a wording thing. It's a clarity issue. It should be a very quick fix. So someone could quickly take a look at that. That would be great.
I can.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Alrighty. Ah, this one's mine. I'm so sorry about this. I let this one sit a little bit, but I just gave it some love this morning. This is the parameter sources custom extension. We talked about this at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, and I just put in all the changes that we discussed. I think we had a couple more changes that we kind of discussed in our last meeting too. So those haven't gotten in yet. I'll get those after this meeting. Sorry about that. I've been like underwater trying to make all the changes from the claim spec. So this is still kind of rolling along. Nothing really to report though. This is still just behind claims, unfortunately, but there's nothing really to discuss about it. I don't think there's anything contentious. I'm just making all the changes people have discussed and brought up.
Just a lot of hard work.
Yeah, there's just a lot of work on my plate. I'm sorry. That's not really a fun status.
Do not apologize for having a lot of work.
Okay. Oh, this next one was a fun one. Okay, so I realized when I was doing
What is this one?
This one's fun.
Yeah.
No, I like this one. Okay, so I realized for like, as long as we've had an implementation for ULIDs inside of CNAB-GO, we copied what was on their Readme for how to generate a ULID, and they outright say, don't copy our Readme, it's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so instead we should be doing something a little different. And so I pieced together through their issues what you really should be doing. And this is basically it. Because what happens is that if you generate a ULID, say like every couple seconds, or minutes or whatever, you don't notice this problem. But if you were, say, generating ULIDs in batches, back to back, say you were a CNAB operator, for example, something we are interested in, or your unit tests or anything where you had high volume, your ULIDs stop being sortable in increasing order, which is a characteristic of ULIDs that I think we care about. It's kind of why we picked them. That stopped working. So this fixes that. So Sylvan was looking at this morning with me. If anyone else wants to look at it, the controversy is that it adds a lock, mutex to the generation of ULIDs. And this is kind of like, at the moment, non-skippable code, because it's kind of embedded when you make a new claim, like you end up hitting this. So at the moment now it's thread safe and everything like that with this new code fix. But if anyone has a better implementation, I'd like it. But this at least fixes the problem for now, and gives us like an actual solid implementation of ULIDs again. But figuring that out and like walking it through and realizing the README is wrong was really fun.
Do you want to have a to-do issue to review that for the future?
I mean, this will fix it.
Okay.
It's just a matter of like, I challenge you. If someone can do it without locks, that'd be great.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. This is the best we've come up with so far.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that Carolyn challenges you, totally. Minimal supply chain example. That'd be awesome.
Challenges should be replaced with, I was gonna say challenges should be replaced with throws down the gauntlet.
Yeah, can I like throw down my splint? Is that that's a gauntlet?
Yeah, throw down the splint.
Totally.
Anyway, let's move on.
Okay, minimal example of a software supply chain. Trishan, do you want to talk about this?
Sure, yeah. This was, so we discussed with people what sort of software supply chain they would like to see for CNAB, right? So how do we use in-toto? Because that basically says, okay, look, someone signed for this bundle JSON, but doesn't say anything about how it was produced. And in-toto is basically like the SBOM, right? Software bill of materials that tells you exactly how it was produced. And we decided that a good minimal example of this in practice would be, and Aditya should chip in here too if I get something wrong. But there'd be two steps in the software supply chain where basically a human developer says, I've got this bundle JSON. Not all of it is filled in, particularly hashes of images, but I know I want this particular images and indication images and so on. I've got their names and tags. but I don't know what their digests are. So the pipeline is going to go build them and fill in the hashes. And we're trying to do cool things like make in-toto work such that the machine is allowed only to fill in like the hashes of images. It can't change their names and tags, for example. So that's kind of cool. We're into some interesting technical details yesterday where we thought we might need a very general, the too long didn't read is we thought it might be worthwhile to add basically what is arbitrary pattern matching to in-toto, but that's a whole long discussion. We're not even sure we need it, but anyway, too long didn't read. There's a way to do this without modifying in-toto right now. That's where we're trying to go. I still have some work to do with this. Let me quickly get rid of that and ping everyone today.
So can I ask a question about this? Because I've just kind of been on the periphery listening to your updates, but I haven't really dived into any of this in-toto stuff. When we say this is like a minimal example here, if someone wanted to use this, are they like plugging in minimal.py into whatever into in-toto, or is this something that they would use separately, or where does this fit into like the larger picture, this script, right?
I should clarify. So right now, what Radu and I are envisioning is something like providing people templates for the in-toto stuff. So if you don't know what your software supply chain looks like, we can do things like, hey, maybe you want to start with this minimal example, right? It might be a good enough start. May not describe your supply chain exactly, but it's a good working approximation. And the idea is that when you call signy, and you say, hey, call signy with the minimal template, right? It would fill in the boring details for you, like generating keys and tells you where they are and all that good stuff.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And so the idea is that you would just,
sorry. Okay.
No, go ahead, please.
I didn't understand why it was in signy. So this makes a lot more sense.
Gotcha.
So signy would actually use this?
Yes.
Okay.
Long term, signy is in Go. Long term, we would like this code to be in Go, of course. But right now, this is the quickest way because the Go version of in-toto doesn't do generation of templates like this yet.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
So I made a note to myself that I need to and finalize it.
Did anyone else have any questions or thoughts on that one? Okay. Next up is another signy. Verify in-toto metadata in the OSR container.
Yep. Again, that's me. Right. So this ended up being a bunch more, but the meat of the thing is to. So there's this question. Remember the wording PR earlier about where we're doing in-toto verification. Basically, in-toto has a whole bunch of things that you need to verify, right? You're asking in-toto, hey, does this software supply chain look good? And you can do it in one of two ways. One is inside a container, just do it more safely, right? And so because you have an in-toto verifier in there, you can control that. That's one option. But Jacob also said we might want to do it on the OS itself because that might be faster, especially when you're doing all of the things at scale. So basically, I've given people options. This one needs Radu to look at it, to be honest, because one thing I do, which I don't particularly like, is to remove the Docker integration test. Why did I do this? I'm trying to recall this.
You use the word fix, which means it's broken.
Yeah, exactly. There's something broken about the test. I'm trying to remember what it was. One is pushing to a repo that we control in the first place. That's one. But even beyond that, there was another thing. But I need to sort this out with Radu.
Yeah, let me know what the issue is.
Yep.
So I have a question on this, and I know you need Radu to look at this just at a high level. Will people continue to have the option of using a container? Is that something that we'll provide that'll help people be able to do this if they don't want to Okay, if we're cool with the performance hit, can we continue to do it easy mode with container?
Oh yeah, by default it is actually the container. I should have specified that.
Okay.
Yeah. The result of this is that you'll be able to make your choice.
Great.
Correct.
Oh, I'm excited about this next one.
Yeah.
Ralph, is this you? This next one about the CNAB Registry update?
Yep. Yep. It can be me. So just for sake of discussion, we've been running against Docker for the most part, and to some degree with ACR, as we sort of waited for OCI dist to mature and also begin replicating out in other places as well. The Harbor folks came back and told us go ahead and test, and I have Radu run a test against Harbor, and so they actually do push and pull both bundles and WebAssemblies, which means they're doing artifacts or as enabled stuff. It's a little flaky, you know, it's their first experience. They had actually given us a tarball to test locally, but Radu basically worked with their local installation and Readme for, he claims, about 2 hours, which gave him the desire to commit suicide, and he gave up. So we're going to assume that it works locally. We'll get back to that later. But anyway, so bundles work in Harbor. And although the build, which is nice, the bundles that appear, they gave us a screenshot where the CNAB icon is actually in the UI next to bundles, which is pretty cool. And the same with Docker, right? They got little UI for little Docker, you know, Docker images. The one that we tested against does not have that yet. So, you know, it's clearly the thing they sent was just, you know, a further iteration. It's not live. But so that's nice. Bundles, we do know that bundles work in CNAB, in DigitalOcean, although we haven't really exercised it extensively. By that, I mean the PM here failed to make it work, whereas the developer there taking notes succeeded in making it work. So it works 50% of the time, or with an actual developer. One of the two, depends on how you want to look at it. And my understanding is that, and this is an understanding, and I'll be glad to report on it later, but my understanding is that GitHub Registry will be moving to Docker dist. And
can you repeat that last part? It kind of, I couldn't hear you. What about
which part?
Docker Registry? Or sorry, GitHub Registry?
My understanding is that they'll be moving to Docker dist.
Oh, okay.
Right, OCI dist. And if so, then they would gain this support. And the real question are things like which media types and are, you know, kind of optimized and things like that. The same for all of this stuff. So we now appear to be making some strides with OCI dist and Docker dist around the registry world. And the only one that is sort of falling out of the registry world progress is Google, which is doing something slightly different, which is entirely their right as a service provider. Anyway, I'm very happy that more of the Docker and OCI registries are supporting CNAB bundles. It allows us to really do some stuff, especially with things like copy and Porter and stuff like that. That gives us a lot of network effect in terms of sharing and distributing and things like that, on top of the sort of the de facto Docker Hub experience, which is wonderful.
Ralph, everybody, actually, not just Ralph. So I've been keeping track on Porter's website about what we've tested just Porter against. I think people have seen that.
Yep.
I'd like to put that on CNAB.io instead, actually, so that everyone can see real quick, because it's not really specific to port at all. It's actually CNAB OCI is essentially what's being tested there.
Yep.
People cool with that?
Yep.
Okay. Because then we can get
Yeah,
all
I
this
think
up.
it's
Like, you know, we've got a bunch of updates here. Why don't we update it and put it on there? And then let people know that if they want to get it updated, that they can just submit a PR then to the CNAB website or chat with us if they don't know how to get it supported. Which leads us to our next question. People were asking about Nexus and Artifactory. Has anyone tried those?
Artifactory was very popular, and then I stopped running into them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think basically the movements that we've made in OCI and in the various registries, I just haven't bumped into Artifactory. Like 3 years ago, I bumped into Artifactory all over the place. Now I don't.
Oh, sorry. It'd be really interesting to know. So Josh Delitsky with the OCI Compliance Report on the various registries, you know, he's been leading that. It'd be really interesting to know what aspects of the report are critical to making CNAB to OCI work. Because then instead of us having to recheck every couple months to go, you know, does X, Y, or Z work, or does it still work? We could rely on that report instead. Because essentially what we're relying on is them being like a compliant OCI registry, right?
Yeah, I think that report is great. I would expect us as we roll forward, and I mean, in other fora, right, in OCI related fora, I basically push that report on people and just show them, look, you know, here's what we're doing. Like, look at all this. And we seem to be making, just the existence of that report seems to be making progress with people mentally, emotionally. So
I'm gonna chat with Radu and Josh and see if we can figure out what part of that little report matrix. It probably has to do with like storing arbitrary things and like listing things in the manifest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should actually expand the report to have a subsection on different media types.
Yeah, because I think that would save us some time and wondering, you know, instead of just having like tests on our side that hit all these different registries, which is cool to have, but you know, I like just relying on the compliance report.
Oh, I would prefer to rely on it, and I'm sure Josh would be glad to optimize it for various media types.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is when the question of closing the config object, which allows people to know what media types are available and which are registries without having to pull things.
Yeah.
And that allows people to optimize, you know, like that from our perspective, that's what Lasker, like he's not going to implement, let's pull this thing and then discover what it is kind of, you know, that's just not going to fly. Yeah. So that, and everybody has agreed on OCI, in OCI dist, everybody's agreed in principle to the config object, but it hasn't, like all things, it takes time for the steps of everybody to move forward at the right pace. Sylvan, has that been your impression?
Yeah, well, I'll talk to him and see what we can figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
'Cause, you know.
Yeah.
We should know. I feel weird when people ask me what works, and I'm like, oh, you know.
Yeah, mostly we've gotten stuff that aren't. Yeah, that's it, Vaughn. That's the one.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
And I note that all the major vendors with billions and billions of dollars fail miserably. So I feel good about that.
Great. Wow. Well, we're at the half hour. We're at the
Yep.
end of the agenda. Was there anything else?
Good by me.
All right.
Really thrilled. Stuff is happening.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too. Ciao. See you guys.
Bye.